Hello, my name is Matt Knowles. I'm the British Council's Director in Japan, and I'm delighted to introduce a discussion between Dr. Gabriele Fernaldi, Director of the National Gallery in London, and Mami Kotoka, Director of the Mori Art Museum. This event is part of a wider campaign being run by the British Council and the British Embassy called UK in Japan. Through it, we're showcasing areas of UK innovation and building new creative partnerships between our countries. To begin our conversation on the connections and friendship between the UK and Japan, it is my great pleasure to introduce Nigel Adams. He is Minister of State in the UK's Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office and has a wide-ranging role with responsibility for UK trade, economic diplomacy and culture across East and Southeast Asia. That of course includes the work done by the British Council. He was last in Tokyo during the Rugby World Cup as we launched the UK and Japan campaign. He joins us now from the UK and will share his reflections on the many strengths of our close cultural partnership and his hopes for the year ahead. Minister Adams, thank you for being with us.
Well, thank you, and hello everyone. First, let me thank the British Council for hosting this event. It's a real privilege to be here alongside Dr. Gabriele Fernaldi and Mami Kotoka, two outstanding leaders and experts in their field and supporters of cultural cooperation between the United Kingdom and Japan. I'm proud that the National Gallery, one of our largest and best known art galleries, has come to Japan with what is the largest selection of its paintings to tour internationally. The paintings chosen for the exhibition span an exciting range of eras and genre, including artists such as Velázquez, Vermeer, Turner, Monet and Van Gogh. The exhibition shines a bright light on the strength of the relationship between the UK and Japan. It demonstrates the commitment to collaborate from both sides despite the immense challenges we're facing during this global pandemic. Now, the arts are uniquely placed to galvanize communities and create a forum to listen, to learn, to share and develop our mutual responses to global events, such as this COVID crisis. Our partnership with Japan has been an important component of our efforts to beat the virus. Our ministers and our scientists consult regularly. We've both committed substantial funds to global vaccination initiatives to ensure that no one is left behind. This close cooperation extends, however, across the bilateral relationship. Our economic partnership is long-standing, 1,200 Japanese firms supporting 150,000 British jobs. And it's also quickly developing. This month, the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement has come into effect. This historic deal could boost trade between the UK and Japan by over £15 billion and drive economic growth well into the future. Japan is also supportive of the UK's accession to the Comprehensive and Progressive Trans-Pacific Partnership. Our security partnership is also strong and broad-ranging. We work together on maritime security, counter-terrorism, and cybersecurity. A programme of ship visits, including 6 UK vessels visiting Japan since 2017, demonstrates our joint commitment to the rules-based international system in the Indo-Pacific region. And that bilateral relationship goes from strength to strength. We're delighted to celebrate it through our UK in Japan campaign, a programme of activity in Japan spanning business, science, education, in the arts, which kicked off, as you mentioned, at the World Cup 2019 Rugby World Cup hosted in Japan. To date, UK and Japan has seen over 90 new cultural relationships brokered between our two countries. The likes of the Royal Opera House, BBC Proms, BBC Scottish Symphony Orchestra, in addition Philharmonia Orchestra, National Portrait Gallery and Court Hall Gallery have undertaken tours in Japan. And the UK in Japan campaign continues into 2021. Among the exciting opportunities are a Creative Tech Great Season and the British Council's Culture Connects Us digital programme, which will connect British and Japanese creative sectors by digital platforms. Elsewhere, the UK Artist Residency Programme in Issei offers a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for British artists to study Japanese culture, explore its traditions and contemporary relevance, and also build those new cultural relationships. And cultural resilience has never been needed more so than now. Together, we'll continue to build on this momentum through cultural exchange. It's through open dialogues, creative thinking, and strong collaboration that we will encourage innovative solutions. We are committed to championing the immense benefits that our culture and creative industries bring to the UK, as well as to international audiences. So in 2021, when the eyes of the world will be on Japan throughout the Tokyo Olympiad, we look ahead with optimism that both our nation's arts and culture sectors will contribute to the health, well-being and cohesion of our societies, which is fundamental to our recovery. It's at times like this that we need our friends more than ever. The United Kingdom has a great friend in Japan, and Japan has a loyal friend in the United Kingdom. Thank you very much.
Let me now introduce our speakers. Dr. Gabriele Fernaldi has been Director of the National Gallery since August 2015. The institution sits as a jewel at the very heart of London. He was previously Deputy Director for Collections and Research at the Museo Nacional del Prado in Madrid. And prior to his role at Prado, Gabriele was a curator at the National Gallery, where he was responsible for the later Italian paintings in the collection and for the Spanish collection. He has curated exhibitions in the UK, in Spain, in Italy and Belgium. Mami Kotoka is director at Mori Art Museum, positioning art at the heart of a landmark development here in Tokyo. She is president of the International Committee for Museums and Collections of Modern Art and has very strong links with the UK. Mami worked as the international curator at the Hayward Gallery in London and has collaborated with many UK artists and curators. Mami, we're very much looking forward to seeing your next exhibition, Another Energy, featuring 16 female artists over the age of 70, including work by Phila de Barlo from the UK. And we look forward to the Aichi Triennial next year, which you will curate as Artistic Director. It will be fascinating now to hear you both describe the role of your institutions, the ways in which culture can connect us, and to learn about the innovations you've made in the context of the ongoing pandemic. Mami, let me hand over to you.
Thank you, Matthew. Let me do an introduction in Japanese. 皆様、こんにちは。明けましておめでとうございます。2020年は世界中がパンデミックに直面し、世界の 90% 以上のミュージアムが閉館をすることとなりました。この冬からの新しい感染症の拡大によって、英国でも多くの美術館が今クローズされています。そして、日本でも今日ちょうど首都圏を中心に、緊急事態宣言が再び発令をされることとなりました。こうした中で世界中のミュージアムプロフェッショナルは美術館活動の存在意義、そしてその持続可能性を問われています。本日はロンドンのナショナルギャラリーの館長、ドクター・ガブリエレ・フェナルディさんと、このコロナ禍の中、ミュージアムがグローバルな観客にいかに貢献できるのか、そして21世紀におけるその役割は何かといった観点から対談させていただきます。The minister spoke about the role of arts in bringing communities together, in creating opportunities to learn from each other and help us to respond to global events. I would like to begin a conversation with Gabriele. Lovely to meet you, Gabriele.
Very good to meet you too. Hello.
Can you tell us about the National Gallery's core objectives? What do you set out to achieve?
Sure. Well, greetings to you, Mami. Greetings to Matthew Knowles and to Minister Adams too. I'm here in London, greeting you from my study in South London, and it's where I spent a great deal of time over the last few months. We're into our third lockdown, of course, as you know, here in Britain. But I think the role of our museum has been very important, if I may say so, during this time. After the first lockdown, we were the first gallery to reopen in early July. And I think there was something symbolic in the National Gallery reopening. We sit in the very heart of London. Many people remember, not because they were there necessarily, but many people remember that during the war years, the gallery was open. The pictures were not on display because they were kept in safety far away from London, but the gallery was open every day for musical concerts. And so that sense of the National Gallery being there for the public to be able to gather, for them to be able to share, I think is still tremendously important today. Fundamentally, of course, our role is to look after our collection. We've got a very, very important, not very large collection of great paintings from the Western artistic tradition, running from late medieval times, from the times of Duccio and Giotto in the around 1300, right through to the early 20th century. So our concern is to look after that collection, but fundamentally to make it available to the public. The National Gallery is all about making the connection between the gallery's collection and the people who come and visit. And when they can't come and visit, it's important to make connections virtually. We've become very expert at that, of course, over the last year. The collection is growing, so we continue to acquire pictures for the National Collection. We study it, we share it. We think of the National Gallery as a place which is both for enjoyment, but also for learning and understanding. We're very keen also to develop our international relations and share our collection internationally. And the show that's currently on in Osaka, Masterpieces from the National Gallery, I think is a fantastic demonstration of the way in which we can work with museum colleagues and museum institutions in Japan and abroad generally, although of course our show in Japan is a very, very important one. You, if I may, if I can turn the question to you, Mami, you are directing the Mori Art Museum. It's rather different from the National Gallery, but tell us a bit about the principal objectives of your institution.
Sure. Yeah, it's very different from National Gallery. Mori Art Museum is a privately funded museum operated by Mori Building Corporation. But its mission is served to larger public, like any other museums, through international contemporary art. And it is also our nature to contribute to our own neighboring communities as a part of the company's mission for town making. And I would say that it's quite a unique model as a private museum, which did not start from a founder's collection. Yeah, a lot of a museum started from somebody's private collection and started to open up to the public. But our founder, Mr. Mori, wanted to have a museum on the top of the skyscraper, which is 53rd stories high, to be a crown of creative energy. And so that symbolized that some new energy is coming out from the core of the urban public space. So yeah, we are serving to a larger number of people. Yeah, I think we're similar in a way that our location is in a very sort of touristic place. That we always see that the people gathering at the Trafalgar Square, and here us at Roppongi Hills, which is also a new tourist destination since 20 years. So one of our mission as International Contemporary Art Museum is to serve to the broader public to introduce worldwide contemporary art.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting, this idea of being right in the center of the city, kind of serving the city, but serving people beyond the city as well. When the National Gallery was established, Trafalgar Square didn't exist in the way it does today, but very quickly that was where it was decided that the gallery should be built, and the idea that it should be built in the very gangway of London. It should be in the absolute center of the city so that people could reach it easily. Both from the poorer east side of London and from the more wealthy west side of London, and that in the language they used at the time, the estates of society could mingle in front of great works of art. And you know, we continue to believe that the gallery is a very important place for communities to mix, to encounter each other, and that, you know, the opportunity to be in front of great works of art, to have conversations, to learn about them, to have a perspective on the past, to reflect on the way in which, you know, our predecessors dealt with the big questions, the big crises, continues to be relevant today. So even though it's a collection of historic art, we believe that it's very much a collection that has something to say today. And the museum, I think, has the role of making those encounters, making those debates, making that communication possible.
Yes, we're looking back on an incredibly challenging year, the year in which we have all had to adapt to this COVID-19 safeguards and restrictions. And it must have impacted so much on your not only program, but also visitor numbers, particularly those museums I know, including ourselves, that are those museums who are in a center of the city and very sort of tourist-centric activity. Then we all lost those tourists from both domestic and abroad. And can you tell us what effect, how you have been affected by COVID-19?
Yeah, sure enough. The first impact, of course, was that we had to close the gallery. It was a very sad moment for us, and of course for many other cultural institutions in March. Over the course of last year, we've been closed, I think I calculated it the other day, 155 days. So that's nearly half of the year. That's unprecedented for us. I said before that even during the war years, our doors were open. So that was painful for us to deal with. It was absolutely necessary. But of course, during that time, what we've tried to do is to maintain all kinds of communication channels open with our regular visitors. But also we've, I suppose, in a sense, discovered that becoming because of circumstances obliged us to become a digital gallery, an online gallery. All of a sudden, I think new opportunities and new possibilities have opened to us. The possibility to reach much more widely, to look at different sorts of formats of programs, of means of communication, to talk about the gallery and to share the gallery with people. So I think there's been opportunities too. It's been difficult because, of course, you know, we generally speaking have around 6 million visitors a year. We're one of the top visited galleries in the world, and over 2020, of course, that's been very, very seriously affected. Even when we did reopen, of course, we had to open with COVID limitations. We needed to make people feel safe when they came, and of course, people were more reluctant to come out. Most importantly, of course, you know, tourism has been severely affected, and you know, the big London museum institutions, of course, depend very significantly on that big tourist audience that comes to London. You know, London's a huge magnet, of course, and its cultural institutions are very, very significant in that regard. And of course, you know, the economic impact has also been tough. But we've been talking a lot to government. We've been talking a lot to our benefactors, and we've seen through the year 2021 will be challenged too. But I'm confident that we'll find a way through. We've had to rethink our programs, and we've had to postpone some of our exhibitions and so on. We're working very hard to find a way through. But I imagine that you too, Mami, at the Mori and other Japanese institutions have had similar challenges to deal with.
Yes, it has been exactly the same. We had to close also for 5 months. And it was from end of February to end of July. And everyone, all the staff had to work from home. And something that probably very different from you is probably you had already some digital resources on your website and showing your collection. And I have seen wonderful different pages in your website to be able to go through your works and tours. But because we are not collection-based museum, we are more like based on our main program is temporary running exhibitions. So we almost had none, like no resources to be able to use for our digital program. So we had to initiate a small team while everyone was working from home to start doing something online. And I was wondering how much you already had digital resources and what you newly innovated during COVID.
Well, we interestingly, when I joined the gallery back in 2015, we decided that we should make a quite serious investment in digital. We sensed that that was an important part of the gallery's future. So we already had an established team. We already had a certain number of formats that we were using and so on. But I think what the closure as a result of the pandemic taught us was that we could really boost that digital activity. It was tremendously important to keep in touch with our audiences. And so we essentially quadrupled our activity. We put out all kinds of different forms of communication. We had slow looking at National Gallery pictures. We had curators speaking from home. We used some archival material that was related to the exhibitions that had opened and then had closed, was also put on online. And these were, I think, hugely appreciated. We saw our user numbers going up enormously. And we recognize that there's an opportunity there to build up a much larger and potentially a global audience. That's the wonderful thing about being online. I guess we have some advantages because of the language that we use. We find that it's easy to reach out across the world, and I think that's certainly an opportunity we want to develop further.
Yes, I also think that digital program is a brilliant addition to additional tool to enrich museum experience for all kinds of visitors on the top of what we have been providing through on-site experience. And some of the parts that I see quite big potential is, as you said, that it's wonderful to reach out to global audience. And when I did Instagram live tour of the exhibition, there's so many comments came from Tel Aviv and Mexico City. And only this time difference is a tricky thing. But otherwise, people can still see it recorded version. And we also screened some of the video works. Sometimes it's too long to see it in exhibition space, but people can see it online at home. So some of the long, durational works, and then also some of the long wall text that people cannot read through in exhibition space. Then we also shared online so that people can read quietly at home. And these are something that we could even continue after COVID is gone. And I think we are finding some of the brilliant potential to work broader with our potential audience.
I think that's a challenge for all of us. You know, we've all upped our game, as we say. You know, we're all doing more, we're doing it more intelligently and so on. The challenge, I think, for the future is, you know, as we reopen our museums and as we, you know, do the activities that we've traditionally done, you know, will we also maintain that strong digital presence? My feeling is that we will and that we should. Because I think it's a way to expand our horizons, it's a way to communicate more broadly. And I think, you know, certainly for us, you know, we consider that the collection has an interest kind of way beyond, you know, the London audience or in fact just the visiting audience. And we need to think of our visitors as a much broader category than just those who can make it to London and come through our doors.
And another difficulties that we are facing is international partnership, of course. And as you mentioned that you brought a brilliant group of works from your collection, and masterpiece from the National Gallery came from London. And even within the COVID, people are queuing to see the show. But what do you think you learned from presenting an exhibition in Japan, and what did it mean to the National Gallery?
So the first thing I'd like to say is that this is the first time the National Gallery has put on an exhibition on this scale outside of London. And we had fabulous partners in the Yomiuri Shimbun, in the National Gallery of Western Art in Tokyo, and in the National Museum in Osaka. We took 60 pictures from the collection out to Japan during the UK and Japan year. And of course, what was going to be Olympics year, and Olympics, of course, will be in 2021. So it was an opportunity for us to show our collection to an audience that we know is very interested in the National Gallery, is very appreciative. As I said, we hadn't done anything on this scale before, so we saw that we had excellent colleagues in Japan and in Tokyo and Osaka that could make this happen. It is if I may say so, a superb exhibition. We essentially wanted to do the best exhibition you can do that represents the National Gallery. So it's a sort of mini National Gallery that's currently in Japan, with works by, you know, Uccello, by Botticelli, by Velázquez, by Rembrandt, Vermeer, Constable Turner, and of course the great Van Gogh Sunflowers, which is so significant for our collection, but is hugely admired throughout the world. So it's an exhibition that's very representative, and the challenge for us was, you know, how to explain our collection, our history, but also to ensure that the works that we displayed were able to kind of speak to a broad international audience. And I'm very happy how the whole experience has gone for us. International activity, of course, is increasingly important. I suppose the art world and the museum world is of its nature a very international world. You know, artists travel, museum curators travel, exhibitions travel, and of course people travel to see exhibitions and to see museums. So you know, we all have a very strong international profile, and that's certainly the case of your museum, isn't it, Mami?
Yes, the international contemporary museum, international partnership is essential to us. We cannot think about activities without contacting our international colleagues. And something we did in 2020 was the international symposium with Tate Modern, which was actually planned already a few years back. And we could finally realize all online, but 2-day symposium, and each afternoon for 3 hours, and overcoming our time differences. But it was a wonderful experience that we had to externalize all these recording, and all the participants comes from New Zealand, America, all different places. And one format of this international conference, which was looking at idea of colonialism and entangled histories from Alexandria to Tokyo. So we're not only looking at the idea of decolonization from West versus non-West, but looking at this idea within this region from Egypt to Japan was quite new. And it brought together nearly 20 speakers and moderators from really all around the world. And even via online, we encountered with so many different untold hidden stories from the different corners of the world. So that was something that a digital online program made it possible. But another thing that I was thinking from last year was one of the words most frequently used in 2020 was solidarity. And it would be much harder to overcome this current situation alone as a single institution. And we must put together our experience and wisdom. And I'd like to talk a little bit about CIMA, International Committee for Museums and Collection of Modern Art, as the capacity of its president at the moment. That CIMA also, we normally do annual conference November, and that is like the major event of this membership community. But because of the COVID last year, we started monthly webinar session and talking about different issues from different parts of the world. And we feel that it truly created a sense of solidarity by sharing not only the success, but more about the problems and the difficulties, and talking with our colleagues among our board and the members. And even the COVID probably really strengthened our solidarity of the community. And it will continue to be very important for all the museum community.
I agree with that, absolutely. One of the things that we saw back in March when the pandemic really kind of kicked in internationally was that there was a real sense that the museums needed to support each other, the collections needed to support each other. When the National Gallery closed in mid-March last year, at the time of the first lockdown, we had literally hundreds of works of art on loan to institutions across the world. But there was an immediate understanding that, we needed to support each other, we needed to help each other. And I hope that that solidarity, and I'm confident that it will continue beyond the pandemic. The pandemic will come to an end, I hope, quite soon. But that sense of solidarity between museums, that sense that we have a significant responsibility to the public, and not just our local public. After all, we think of our collection not just as a British collection, but it is a collection of universal importance, of worldwide importance. And so that sense of wanting to share, wanting to collaborate, wanting to incorporate different points of view as well, I think will carry through with us beyond the pandemic. And that's, I think, is certainly a good thing for all of us.
Gabriele, I wanted to look ahead now. And I have heard that you are celebrating its 200th anniversary in 2024. And what special celebrations and a new development are you planning, if I may share?
So you're right. The gallery was founded in 1824, and it was founded by an act of Parliament. So we were a public museum right from the very beginning, and we want to celebrate in 2024, in our bicentenary, our 200th anniversary. We want to celebrate that sense of the gallery being for the people of Britain. So we'll organize a series of really significant activities at the gallery, but across the country too. We're one of the earliest institutions in Britain to have national in its title, the National Gallery. So we consider ourselves a resource really for the nation, a resource of works of art, but also of expertise, and also of experiences, of aesthetic experiences, of learning experiences, research experiences, and so on. So we want to find ways to share the gallery across the country. But also we have international ambitions, and I think probably our international ambitions will focus on being much more present digitally, and to make our collection and our museum and our expertise much more apparent internationally. But there'll be a festival, there'll be some great shows, there'll be things in the media and so on. I hope it will be a real celebration for everyone. It's about celebrating the great art in the gallery's collection. But we're not, of course, the only people who have a significant birthday coming up. You two, you're a much younger institution, if I may say so. But you've got your 20th anniversary coming up in 2023, I believe.
Yes, exactly. I just cannot believe that I have been with this museum since its beginning. So 2023 is our 20th anniversary, and we're still a baby compared to your 200 years old history. But I think I'd like to envision a future by looking at also our past as well, and modern and contemporary art. Also, modern and contemporary museums are relatively new to National Museum, of course, but came such a long way in the entire 20th century, and also first 20 years of the 21st century. And now we are in the middle of the vast ocean of the development of art in diverse region and time. We are looking at the diverse world art history. So we are to look at art from all the different parts of the world. But we still need to seek for undiscovered treasures within this vast ocean. And its potential is, I think it's enormous. We, as Matt introduced at the beginning, we are showing this exhibition called Another Energy, which is coming up in 3 months, but to introduce 16 women artists whose ages ranges from 71 to 105. So those are the women artists who continue creating. And I see that those to be discovered artists are so much at the very different corner of the world. So we would likely to shed more lights on the people and artists and artworks who needed more light. But also another essential mission as a museum to reflect the global issue is sustainability. It's environmental sustainability is also an enormous issue. And probably from architecture, from a design point of view, but also from contemporary art through the post-war time, that how artists have been giving some voices for those issues will be a very interesting point to discuss in 2023.
Absolutely. I just wanted to say a quick word, if I may, about contemporary art at the National Gallery as well, because contemporary artists have always been part of the National Gallery story, and particularly at this time, we feel that the contemporary artist's voice in a historic museum is very valuable. So we found a way to work with a range of contemporary artists, usually responding in some way to the National Gallery's own collection. But I think really finding in the National Gallery a source of inspiration, a place where many people gather to consider the big questions of our time, the same as happened historically. And so I think the presence of contemporary artists in the National Gallery it has become increasingly important. Perhaps in the past, the gallery's collection was, as it were, the property of the curators. I think we've got a much more open attitude today, and in a sense, the galleries belonging to everyone has to be much more evident, much more apparent, and that can happen, through our programs, through our activities, through audience participation, in the way we plan our programs, and I think very particularly in the way contemporary artists play a part in the National Gallery's kind of developing story.
I think it's so contemporary to read our history, and something you have in a collection, and also history is full of knowledge and experience, and then also hidden stories. So it's so exciting to hear the National Gallery would welcome contemporary artists to respond to what you have, but also opening up the different interpretation of your treasures. And I would really hope that your collection will come back to Japan again. And together with some of the curators, and also you could also come to Japan and continue some dialogues beyond East and West. And there's always so much to be discovered within Western history, but also Eastern part of the history. And there's always something in common and something that we can resonate.
Well, Mami, I've been very touched to see how enthusiastic the Japanese visitors have been to the National Gallery exhibition. You pointed out before that it was during the pandemic that we eventually opened. We were due to open in March 2020. In fact, we ended up opening up in June. But people were queuing up there on the first day. There was a huge amount of interest from the Tokyo public to visit the exhibition. I think in the end we had about 300,000 visitors. Well, that's amazing for the time of crisis that we're living through now. And we've got very strong visitor numbers in Osaka as well. So I'd like to express kind of gratitude to the Japanese audiences who have welcomed the National Gallery collection and have shown such enthusiasm for it. Like you, I hope there'll be more opportunities for collaboration in the future. I hope that our tourist exchanges will happen again, and Japanese visitors will visit London and British visitors will visit Japan. And may I offer you and all those listening our very best wishes for 2021.
Thank you very much. And yeah, I think we need to continue collaborate to overcome this situation. And I have a big trust that we can overcome, and very much looking forward to continue our conversation and potential collaboration in the future.
Thank you. And thanks to the British Council too. Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you very much. And 皆さんどうもご視聴ありがとうございました。